All right, well, starting to record this just in case we go through anything interesting. Not entirely sure I'm gonna keep the recording or not, but we'll have to see kind of what we end up going through. Let's see here. So let me share my screen for you guys. Okay. You see my screen okay?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. So yeah, Elysium was asking about Adam. So basically, so first off, all I really wanted to do was come in here and I went through a lot of charts, posted a lot of commentary about it in Hangout, and posted some thoughts, some of the more detailed thoughts, I guess, in my TA chat room. But I went through all of the alts that I kind of pay more attention to. And what I wanted to do today was go through, like, just to kind of show you how I look at things, like, so as far as alts that I don't really watch, and I guess it's part of like a routine that I have that I like to do. I used to do this. It depends on the market. Like, if and you'll notice, like, if there's a lot of setups to be taken, this is something that I do almost daily. But due to the current state of the market and kind of how it's been this year, I definitely don't do it anywhere near as often. The stuff that's on this list that I have, so I have them separated by color. This is stuff that I look at a lot more frequently. You could say, like, this stuff that I'm like somewhat keep up to date with, and my charts are relatively current. Some of the stuff that's on here is like requests that you guys have asked me for too. So some of like those requests I will look at on a stream. Could have been like a few months ago, and then like I just it's not like I like keep updating it because some of the stuff I don't trade or some I can't even trade. But for the most part, the stuff I can, I'm relatively up to date. But I want to go through the other list of stuff that I'm not, like, and stuff that I haven't looked at in a while, just to see, like, is there any opportunity, or kind of like some of the thought process that I had behind the commentary that I shared last night and this morning, basically just showing you ideas of like where I'd be interested, right? Which some of those areas are not relatively close. Like, you look at VTHO and that chart that I posted, like, just to kind of show you where I would be interested in something like that and what it would take for me to get, for me to actually step in and kind of like highlighting areas like that. And it's more about preparing. I talk a lot about, usually this part doesn't get recorded, but I've talked a lot recently post, like, after I'll end recordings and whoever sticks around, we chat for a little bit afterward, kind of talk about like my preparing for like what my next plays look like long term, right? Like stuff that I'm interested in. If we're coming down to like really huge macro support levels, for example, and I think that it might be an altcoin that I'm interested in holding for the foreseeable future until next cycle starts, something like that, or kind of like positioning myself for that. Like I've talked quite a bit about that, but we might end up doing a bit of that today. We'll see kind of how the charts look. So first of all, Adam USD. So Elias asked if I think it has legs to continue the uptrend after the or after the retest of the daily Kijun. So for me, again, it's not necessarily about the Kijun. I don't really like the positioning here. You kind of have like this over under effect, and really the main takeaway for me looking at this, which I'm going to try to zoom in, delete this line because it's annoying me. First of all, you had like this really nice uptrend coming off of this low. What frustrated me a little bit was it didn't come exactly down here, which again, when you're looking at like your macro levels, especially volume related levels, like your macro point of control, value area high, value area low, that stuff, it's again, they're regions, right? They're not perfect levels. But what kind of sucked was I missed this. And this is kind of one of those examples, which it's going to look like an absolute mess because everything's on here. Let me try to turn this off. Basically, you're coming down into these. I mean, you look back at this giant, this range, this kind of like range. You have this really nice compression. Maybe if I zoom in a little bit over here, you kind of have like this really nice compression. And you can see like the macro point of control on its own is actually a relatively nice SR level. Obviously here you chop around quite a bit, but if you look at it, it's pretty much the midpoint of this range, right? So like this is very, very relevant level. And Adam actually had, I mean, you look at this range that we were trading here and, we broke down and where do we find our footing, which I know I have a lot of levels on here, but where do we find our footing? It got really close to the macro point of control, right? So like these levels, always levels that I'm interested in, these are kind of the things that I'll be paying attention to as I go through some charts later, but that was a miss. So like looking for this type of reaction, especially when you get a reclaim of this key level, really was kind of a miss. So a little bothered by that. And look at this. I mean, just incredible, right? I don't really know if this is like if there's some kind of catalyst. I thought I had heard that there might be something going on. I really don't know. But this type of price action here, again, very constructive. Right, even you come in up to this key level and you start to, you lose this trend line. It even gives you kind of like that nice short that you could have taken, but it's like the retracements on this have been very shallow for the most part. This to me looks relatively good. I could, like, one thing I would say is go look at the BTC pair, right, which I don't know if I want to do right here right now, but at the end of the day, like this is definitely one of the stronger alts in my opinion that's out there. So what I would say for myself, again, like specifically to that question, is like one level that I'd really want to see held is really the cloud, which you're sitting on. So again, Kijun, I mean, yeah, it's a level that I guess I would want to be aware of, but for me, it's being above cloud. That's more important. So not necessarily the Kijun, although it's kind of, again, it's like using it. You kind of even have like an SR flip here, resistance flips, right? Now you're kind of using it as support. But again, at the end of the day, like what I'd really want to see here is the last piece is for price to hold above cloud and get this to recross. Like that would likely give you another, like a really nice potential trending move outside of here, at least to like I could see this high getting ran and then maybe coming up into this region, like this old, like I need to clean this chart up a little bit, but kind of like I could see, again, if like that happens, I could easily see a push up to this red box, basically like low 20s, or maybe even up here all the way up to like your 618, something like that would give you a nice retest into like these really big resistance levels. But again, Adam looks pretty good. This is one that I traded incredibly well. I traded it incredibly well last year, and I never really got interested in getting back into it. And again, this was a miss. This was definitely a miss. But as far as like if I'm looking for a position right here, right now, there's just nothing like as it currently sits that interests me. I think like over the course of the next several months, if we were to get another rotation to the downside, I would absolutely be interested in like a very big pullback of Adam. To like start to scale into, a long-term bag. This is kind of one that I would like to get back into, but I'm not entirely sure. Like, I don't feel like I missed my opportunity yet, because of kind of like my macro bias, right? Kind of like how I'm viewing the market. But I'm definitely like, this was definitely a missed opportunity though, without a doubt. I was like, anyway, so let me yeah. Yeah, like I said, like this, again, this is one of what I would say, this is one of the better looking altcoins out there as far as relative strength. I think it looks pretty good. But for me, there's not a lot, like, again, like looking at trying to get into a position now, or like there's really nothing that interests me. If anything, like if I were to be looking at this, I'd rather see a deeper pullback, a pullback into one of these supports, maybe get something, come into a level of interest down there, or another push to the upside and then look for a short. Like that's kind of like how I view it. I think like one thing too to look out for, like for like a real potential, strong leg to the upside, if it manages to reclaim this trend line anytime soon, like over the next couple of days, I mean, it's gonna take, you can't go too far out. But anytime like within the next couple of days, if you got a really nice impulse and move, let's say the market's moving up as a whole, this is one that I would definitely be aware of. I think you could have a nice, again, kind of like looking up to this, $20 region, something like that. Maybe this old daily somewhere around here is probably going to find a pretty fair amount of resistance there. But still, again, maybe a nice short to be had at some point for me. Not really anything I'm too interested in. So, I mean, Bitcoin, there's not a whole lot going on. We can take like a very quick look at that. Just range bound. I mean, we really just have this range that's kind of compressing. I know everybody's waiting for FOMC tomorrow, and there wasn't a ton of volatility today at all. I haven't really been trading this within the last 2 days or so, a couple of days. But I would say, again, a little bit of a trend line here of interest. I think this green zone, you can kind of see how I have, again, it's kind of a lot of levels. So like the 618 of this measured, of this pull that I've done, didn't quite come down to hit it. So I'm leaving it here just as a point of reference. The anchored VWAP from this 618 test has been rock solid support. So that's why this green line is here. It's your anchored VWAP that came in off of this golden pocket test back here October 21st. Anchored VWAP, support, 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 support. Price pushes all the way up to 21, comes back to where? Anchored VWAP, support, and you haven't had another test since, right? So again, this has been a support level. So again, that's why it's still here. Support until it's not. And then you kind of have this trend line, which really all I'm trying to really measure is kind of like this, but it ended up coming back to this point pretty nicely. So it's kind of something, again, this is just a reminder for myself. Not a point of confluence there at the end of the day. This is really just compressing. I'm not expecting anything. I'm not expecting anything major, I would say, at all until tomorrow. I think tomorrow is going to be another one of those typical FOMC trading days where we're probably going to have crazy move to the upside, crazy move. Again, it depends. Again, it depends what they say, and that's kind of what I would say. You kind of have two different moves, right? You have like the initial release. And then you have like when Powell speaks, essentially, like you have like it's like it depends what he says, right? And it's kind of what it's about, like how he says it. That's the important part. But again, I expect a ton of volatility tomorrow. It hasn't really failed us yet. It's we're looking for pretty big moves. Which direction? Again, I don't know. Depends what he says. At the moment, though, I do kind of like, again, like we're holding support okay. I don't really see any reason for like pain right here, right now. But I'm not trying to position myself to try to like get into position for tomorrow. I'd rather play the reaction. That's just me. And I'm waiting for Elysium to post the no balls and hang out the no balls emoji. But it's true. It's just there's for me there's no real reason. Like if you're already in a position and you're positioned well, then I think being protective on that position is not a terrible idea. If you're not in any position right now, unless we get some kind of movement, if anything, I would be a little bit more biased to the upside, kind of like from where we're sitting. And by upside, I mean just like within the context of this range. I'm not looking for like any massive breaks. I think we probably get something tomorrow. I'd have to wage a guess. We're probably gonna get some kind of move outside of this range tomorrow. Depending on how that goes. I kind of have, so like you see this line right here, this is a measured move of this range. So again, going back to range trading 6, talk about measuring your moves outside of this range. I just did one to the downside because I was kind of curious, like if there would be any kind of confluence. And basically, it's no surprise, it comes back down to like the support. Basically looking at 18.8, which has been rock solid. Like it's been very, very big support for Bitcoin. The only challenge I would say, and I've been saying this for a little while now, is that if we come back down to 18.8, 19K, I really do not think Bitcoin survives another test, especially after coming in, putting in this type of structure here. Kind of zoom out a little bit. again, you kind of have like, you kind of have this high 25K, which is kind of your big range. I'll probably go over Bitcoin a lot later once I clean this back up. Actually, like, trying to think, is this the one where I went through and no, where is it? I had one that I had like all my files and all that. It might not be on this template, but I don't know. I had it like all organized. But anyway, it wouldn't look very good. Essentially creating high, low, lower high, lower low, potentially another lower high in this area. It just wouldn't look very good to me. If we were to break down it and come back to test the support. So the thing I'll say, like I always say, is it's support until it's not. And it's the truth. It's literally support until it's not. If you've taken longs, anytime that we really come down to test this 18.8, 19K region, you've done well. Like, you've done pretty well. Although I would, again, it's just the more times that support's tested, theoretically the weaker it becomes, and eventually it gives way. And let me tell you, when this one actually gives way, especially, obviously we have to take out the 17.5 low that was put in like months ago. But if that gives way, I'm looking for some real continuation to the downside. So that's Bitcoin. And then again, to the upside, for me, there's really big resistance around like just kind of north of us, which again is kind of like if you're looking for, I want to say that this is necessarily my bias, for like this time frame. Again, macro wise, I still think that we have a pretty good chance of moving lower overall. But coming out of this particular formation, if we do break to the upside, big 1.8, so that's kind of like what I would be looking for to the upside. Like if you put this to the upside, I'm trying to remember where I pulled that from, probably be here. You're looking around, this is probably close to the previous high here, coming back into this level. So again, looking at this mini consolidation back up here at 22K, kind of this little range that we put in before this massive nuke to the downside, this would actually put you really close to the 886 of the overall pull and really right back into here. So that would basically be your value area low of this consolidation, like literally testing the underside of this before like this massive nuke, right? So that also could be like a pretty nice resistance. I mean, I would expect that to be pretty good resistance. If we take this high out and break and hold above this, we're probably heading to test the top side of the range again. I'd say like 24, 25K, like we're probably heading up there. And then, go from there. I don't want to talk too much about kind of like that whole deal. Just because it's not that it's not super relevant to now, but I want to kind of move on from here. Does anybody have any questions about Bitcoin? It's relatively simple. Like we're forming another nice range, another nice consolidation. And I think there's a very, very high probability that we're going to break this tomorrow. So I think it's kind of what seems like the market might be waiting for, but high probability we break this tomorrow. I couldn't tell you which direction though, being honest. So any questions before I move on? So the green list that I have, this is just kind of the one that I pay the most attention to. Again, I said this earlier, but hold on one second. All right, sorry about that. My daughter brought me a coffee. You believe that? It's so nice. My wife bought it, but she was delivering it to me. So anyway, where was I? So green list, pay attention to this a lot more. Move over to, so my orange list is all BTC pairs. I just try to keep it somewhat organized because the list gets incredibly long if you just leave it all under one list, right? The red list is one that I have traded. I have traded all of these at some point. Some of these not for a long time. So this is kind of the point of this stream, is to come in here and just see what we see. And some of it I probably won't give the time of day. Like I just gotta kind of scroll through, see what I see, and move on from there. If there's something of interest, I'll point it out. And if there's any questions, or if somebody that happens to be an altcoin that somebody's like super interested in, I can try to do more analysis and actually break it down. But unless somebody tells me, I'm not gonna do every single one because it would take me way too long. But this, like, just to give you an idea, is it's kind of a really good exercise, I would say, and I would kind of encourage people to do that. It's just really good practice to go through and kind of like try to get your, I hate to use the word bias, but like get kind of your bias in, and look at a chart, few seconds in, bullish, bearish, like, is there an opportunity? If not, move on, right? I think sometimes we can waste too much time looking at something if there's like clearly nothing there. Anyway, so gonna start at the top. Typically like to zoom out, and this looks awful. You can tell kind of the last time we were looking at this, so we had this support, broke down support, back test as resistance, right? So like I can see that right away. Again, what was very big time support flipped into resistance, and it looks awful. Once it broke this resistance, formed another relatively nice range, and then just continued to break down from there. It's literally below your macro value area low. If I had to guess, this level probably shifted. This level probably shifted down, yes, just because of how much time price is spent at these levels here. Hold on a second. Give me 1 second. All right, sorry, I had to mute. Let me know if you fix that. I'll be happy to unmute. But and by the way, like, I know that I'm recording this right now, but if you want to interrupt me, if you want to pop in, feel free. Like, it's okay. This recording is mostly, again, I might release this to public. I don't know yet, but this is for you. This is for everybody who's here. So feel free to interrupt me. So anyway, this is 1 inch. The level shifted substantially, which again, I'm not surprised, just based on how much time price has put in at these lows. Now, this is kind of like, again, I'm not going to talk too much about the fundamentals because some of the stuff I'm not like a ton up to date with, like kind of what's happening with there. But again, you can see the volume shifted down substantially, and you'll probably notice, like, as you go through charts on yourself, I'm muted in Rogue, so you shouldn't hear anything. But again, if just tag me if you fix that, and I'm happy to fix that. Which, by the way, one thing, I'm not gonna do it right now, but I am gonna change the permissions for VIPs. That way you can do that yourself. Like if you're in, like if you're in voice chat, like that way you guys can still control that on your own. So remind me to fix that. But anyway, so for now, really the only thing that we have to go off of, because it's below pretty much every single macro support that exists, is the only thing that you really have at this point is this level, right? So you look at where your macro value area low is. That is literally the support. That is literally it. This looks awful. But one thing that I wouldn't mind seeing, again, if we're gonna, if I'm kind of like thinking ahead, and I think like kind of like what my opinions on the market are and what I think could happen, kind of what I've seen happen before, like previous bear market, which isn't terrible, is something like this. Like you just have like this long form range that just forms out over time. I think if this type of price action was to continue, I would be, and again, hold support, I would be a lot more interested in actually looking for a position on 1 inch, which 1 inch has been like probably the bane of most people's existence, because this thing knows nothing but it just goes down one direction, right? But if you're bullish on, if you're bullish in, if you're bullish on 1 inch for whatever reason, and you think that like, you want to get yourself into some kind of position for the long term, this is kind of like more along the lines of what I would want to see. Just kind of like over the course of the next several months, right? Like what I buy right here, right now, probably not. Again, I don't want to talk anybody out of doing that. I just myself, I'm not interested in it unless I either get lower, right? Like unless it continues to break lower to the downside, gives me a better entry, or it kind of does this, what would end up looking kind of like an accumulation phase, right? Like something that's just long drawn out, And that would kind of pique my interest. But I mean, from the high, kind of like a good exercise. I mean, really, I mean, you could do it from all-time high. It ain't gonna matter that much. But from this high, this thing again, it's gone basically straight to the floor. And I think the low, it's down 93%, right? So again, the reason why I point this out, if you love the 1 inch anywhere above where we are now, you're gonna really love it down here. So that's kind of what I would look for there. Again, for me, nothing unless I see more drawn out continuation or even lower levels, which I think when it debuted, it was, I mean, this, I don't know how accurate this low is, to be honest with you. I don't remember it. I have to go back because I know 1 inch, I'm trying to remember. I think it airdropped. I know there was an airdrop. I don't remember. I'd have to like go back and see. Either way though, like this could have a ways to go. So not really that interested. Aave. This is a miss. So this is a miss for me. And it's literally 48. So this key major support, I don't even need to see anything else because I think I have another Aave. I have another Aave chart on my green. So I don't know why the hell I have this here, but literally missed this. So again, just looking at the kind of like the first move to the upside, and then literally kind of just looking at kind of like your important supports, right? 48. Like that was definitely a miss. But either way, kind of the same story. I'm not, again, if you're like bullish on Aave, another retest of that level possible, especially if you do some kind of S&P of the low here, like that could be a really nice entry, or lower. I don't know. I have a level here that's like way down here. I do not think that it hits that level, but because it's like ridiculous amount below us. Now again, if things go to hell in a handbasket, which is certainly possible, you know, again, I would say there's probably a 99% chance that that doesn't get hit. But if it did, I would definitely be interested down there. For me, this $48 level was a miss, and this is probably another level that I would be interested in playing if given the opportunity. So again, Aave, very short and sweet, to the point. That was kind of one of those, again, misses that didn't have an alert set. And you know what's funny is I might have had an alert set. That's kind of the thing that I would say to be cautious of. I might have had an alert set. I'm pretty sure I should have on something like that, something I typically would have done, but I actually deleted all of my alerts because I was reconfiguring a lot of, I've been doing a lot of testing. So on some of the indicators that I've put together, and I deleted all my old alerts just because they were taking up space. So that's my fault, but it's something I actually did that a long time ago. And I never actually went back through and I think, you know, try to like put in the alerts that actually mattered. I kind of just did a bulk delete. But anyway, so Aave, 48, major level. Any sort of retest of that, I think I would be interested around there. Could you find a setup on lower time frames? Probably. Kind of curious. Like, are you really surprised? Low, high, golden pocket. I'm gonna just do this just for fun. And then you even get the run, right? You get the sweep of the lows, nice push. Anyway, like there's obviously opportunities on stuff like this. It's just, again, I'm trying to keep like this focus more macro outlook, right? More high time frame. Another push of these lows I'd be interested in. Alice, I don't even know if I can buy this thing or not. It looks awful. I don't know. Again, the levels probably shifted. Yeah, I almost guarantee, yes, they shifted a lot down just because of how much time prices spent at these lows. Not super important. Point of control used to be where the value area high now is. So again, like coming into these lows, it's not really very interested on something like this myself. But again, if you're bullish on Alice, I think that like you might be coming into an opportunity relatively soon. For me, it's probably a lot lower and probably not at all. Just because I'm not even sure if I can buy this or not. There's a chance it might be on Coinbase. I don't know. don't really care that much. But same thing, if I got lower opportunity, big drop, sudden drop, something like that, could be of interest. Alpha, this is one that I'm actually kind of like, again, you'll see a lot of them they look relatively similar, right? A lot of the alts, this is like dead. It's completely dead. Think about what's happened. Think about what's happened. Now, to be fair, what is this on Binance? I mean, you had a pretty nice scam move to the upside before a full retrace, which we see on alts a lot. But for the most part, it's relatively flat. And I think, again, coming into any sort of, like, I like to go back to the very beginning of the chart and kind of see where we're at. And you can see there's still quite a bit of potential downside that's left, right, in this type of a move. And this isn't like, I would say, like perfect TA or anything like that, but really just kind of coming back to, I mean, this thing could literally come back down a ton. Especially if, whoops. Like, I mean, obviously we start to lose 10 cents. It's really around here, right? Arguably maybe a little bit higher, something like this. So that's pretty important support. Going back to here, you lose this level, there's nothing holding you up, right? There could be a substantial drop here. So I don't know. Again, this isn't one that I'm like massively like keen on putting in some kind of position, but if I got an opportunity to do it from a lower level, or if this again kind of like continues to hold for a while, like another rotation like that, then I get a bit more interested in that, because for me it's about timing as well too, like where things are at in terms of like the rest of the market, right? And it's like you'll kind of see, like I'll speak a lot more about that like obviously as things progress, but what I would say, again, kind of what I'm doing is, again, looking, trying to get a look at things, I would say a bit on the earlier side and be prepared, right, for stuff that I'm interested in. I don't know if I really care that much about alpha, but that's kind of what I would be looking for. Same thing. I mean, this is completely dead. Now you are getting this on Coinbase, so you are getting like these oscillations, right? It's really, I mean, I would probably draw a bit of a zone just to try to like connect as much. I guess I would look at kind of like how you have this daily level here, and you're getting this, like you have a very, very clear resistance. You have a very clear resistance. I mean, you have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tests over the course of, so again, if you're a degenerate like myself, so you have 7 tests within 44 days. Like, I mean, I think you probably know where I'm going with that. That's a dangerous game to play. That's a very dangerous game to play. But when you're in this slow of a market, for me, all I care about in looking in this range, and if you're asking me if this is playable, arguably it's playable. Obviously, there's a reason why this keeps scamming up into this resistance area. Like, does it have another one? You have a very clear support. You have a very clear resistance. What I would say is, if this breaks and holds above this, I think you can have a pretty nice move coming out of this consolidation. This is very clean. And then again, like, the support's very, very well encompassed. Like, you have a very clear defined support, which I don't think this is it. So interesting enough, I don't know, I try to pick, like, I usually try to do my homework on these before I keep like the final chart. Like, so what I mean is, this is probably the one that has the most history. Usually I check on that stuff. So again, like, you know, there could be another chart that has like, maybe there's different levels below this. I don't think so, because again, I usually check on that. But if I was to look at this is actually a really interesting one. So if I'm looking, I mean, that's 15%. So Arguably, the risk is relatively low in terms of like what your trade setup would look like. I'd say arguably it's pretty low. I would be really careful on a wick basis because obviously this price action is there. So I mean, now this is obviously to the upside. I would probably look for a break of this support on a closing basis to tell me that this structure is broken. I wouldn't necessarily care too much for a wick because I think the probability of getting one could be pretty high. But again, I'm probably spending too much time on this, but hopefully you see this, what I'm seeing, right? This is very like, and I've seen charts like this before. So anyway, this is what what my opinion would be is like, this is probably likely to continue until not, right? Like I don't see any reason why this would stop. Maybe there was some kind of catalyst. I don't think so, because you probably would get some kind of trending move, even if it was short term. But anyway, it's interesting. I kind of wish, like, for me, if I'm being honest, this is very clean, but I would like it to be bigger. Like, I want the range to be a bit larger for, like, to be able to take that risk. Because to me, that's still risky playing this shitcoin, right? It's pretty risky, but 15% is pretty good. So, anyway. Any questions on that? I'm not telling you to ape in right now. I'm just kind of showing you, like, how I would play that. Kind of what I would be looking for. And this is one of those examples where, again, if it broke this, you get a lot of fall through on something like this. But I probably, if I was to play this, I would be fully out of my position in this box. There's no reason. It hasn't done it yet. It's still resistance until it's not, right? I wouldn't try to like hold on. Well, that's me. Again, if I'm looking just particular at this setup. Let's see. This is one right away, not really that interested. It is forming a bit of a range. I guess you could call this, again, like a failed breakout. Having a pretty nice range here. Otherwise, there's a very clear support. Say it's right here. That's basically your range low, key support, whatever you want to call it. Break below here and be looking here. That's not true. Here, this kind of nice SR flip. I like that quite a bit. As that's probably what I mean. That's why I kind of have a lot of key level. I call them key levels just to like keep it simple for myself. Break below here, high probability coming out to retest this. I mean, you probably short this. I'm guessing you could probably short that. But like you lose this key level. Yeah, I mean 26.5%. That's a pretty nice move to the downside, and then you start to get into like this kind of range that formed here, macro point of control. So for me, like I think there's actually a pretty nice setup to the downside if it's given. I mean you have a 26% move to the downside if you start to lose the support. I do like that quite a bit. From a macro perspective, if I was interested in picking up Anchor, is it Anchor? ANKR? I don't know. For like some kind of long-term swing position, like where I want to start building, it would probably come in at this point of control. So again, looking like months ahead. If I was, again, if market went lower, came down into this region, and I was like, man, I really love this project. That's probably around where I would personally start to look for that. But there is actually, I would say this is a pretty nice example of having potential trade setup to the downside as well. To the upside, a little bit less clean, I would say, because you kind of had like that failed breakout here, basically coming up to retest the area where you broke down again, kind of like where the supply is sitting. Inefficient move to the downside, very directional. Had your range, basically a little bit of buildup, then you get your breakout fail, right? So like coming back above here, arguably it wouldn't look too bad, I guess. But I'm not really like I wouldn't be that. The plays I share is kind of the ones that I would be more interested in. Anyway, so that was pretty quick. What is this? Oh, are we Bitcoin? Well, this should be here. Not really. And then same one. Should be there. Not really that interested in this. I don't know what the hell I was measuring. Oh, it's probably this range. I was probably measuring this range before the breakout. Which, funny enough, like again, you go back to 2020. which I know Ardor was trading a long time before this. I'm pretty sure this is a 2018 shitcoin because I was trading this back then. But this is the tether pair, so I think it was probably ARDR BTC. It had to have been a Bitcoin pair. Um, that yeah. But anyway, again, nice kind of like range or kind of like consolidation, accumulation, whatever you want to call it. And then you have like that break in 2020, early 2021. Nice move up. And then just like again, kind of like highlighting the power of shitcoins when things are going crazy, right? I mean, you look at this type of move, it literally retraces all the way back down to your range high here and then gives you another rotation. So if I would say anything about this, it's more about, can we please bring this type of market condition back, right? Like this is unreal trading environment. And then like a good shitcoin that it is, what do you get? A full rotation all the way back down to this range high. So arguably, it's not flawless in terms of where I have this level mark, but it's pretty good, right? It's pretty good. So if I would say anything, I'm not going to put any other levels on this chart. This is a very big support macro. Huge, massive support. If this fails, probably looking for, what I would do is look at kind of like this range. So like give yourself an idea. Of course, I have to do it there where there's a pivot, so irritating. What I would do is kind of just look at this range in particular, find your midpoint. That's really, I would say, a level of interest for myself. Get your equilibrium point. Just to give yourself another level and go from there. So again, you can kind of see relatively well interplay. It gets a little hard to see because we're zoomed out here, but decent interplay. You start to really break down below here. This is really your next support. And then obviously this, you're down back at, if you believe in this project remotely, which this is an older project, you're probably buying here. The risk reward here is pretty good, arguably, if you're willing to hold, right? So basically looking for one of two things. Either price holds this level, which it's violated a few times, but still, like, you've got pretty nice rotations. You've got some like pretty decent rotations off of this level. Weaker, kind of like weaker reactions. But to the downside, those are the levels that I would be looking for. And I don't know what I'd say about that. Any questions so far? Is this even helpful? Or do you guys want to do something else?
I like this format.
Okay. That's another thing too. It's like if you think it's helpful or you think it's not helpful, please tell me. That way I know if this is like even something I should continue. Because obviously I have like a long way to go. I don't know if I'm gonna make it all the way because, so like, to be clear, I said that I can go through these charts in a few seconds. If it's true, I can look at it, I'll see it, I like this stuff, I map out in my head, move on. But it takes me so much longer to explain to you why. I wish it's the typical me, right? Try to explain in detail why I'm looking at it that way. So not making a ton of progress, but hopefully it's helpful. And again, I know I'm talking a lot, but if you have a question or you want to ask me something about the chart, ask me. So feel free to interrupt.
Yeah, sure. I appreciate it.
Again, and some of this stuff, I don't know. What the hell is this? Assemble protocol. I have no idea. Why is this on here? I couldn't tell you. I've never traded this. I obviously put in an anchored VWAP from all-time high for some, I don't know why I was looking at that. But anyway, this is, I have no idea. And apparently it's on Coinbase. They're really on Coinbase. That's, anyway. Yeah. So like, I don't really see, I'll tell you this, and this is more of a gut feeling. These spikes there's probably going to be another one. This is one of those charts I look at and I just get the feeling that you're going to get another scam wick to the upside. I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason for why this does that, but I've seen enough of them in my trading time to know that there's now again, please don't mistake that as saying, oh, that means I'm freaking buying everything, I'm buying my net worth here, and I'm like, no, I'm just telling you, I would not be surprised if you get another one. And if you look, this literally happens in a day, right? This is like one of those that I'm not entirely sure you can catch, but I just wouldn't be surprised to see another spike up here at some point. Am I interested in this chart? No. So I'm probably gonna actually, I don't know, maybe, well, I guess now I went over it, I'll probably leave it on here for a little while longer, but that's it. I must have been looking at this somewhat recently. I really like that 1.618 here, minus $3, by the way. I'm just kidding. Wow. I don't know. This chart looks like shit. I don't know how else to say it. This looks really bad. This looks really bad. So like typically like when I'm looking for this, it's usually really shallow. Like I'm looking like for the 1.133, kind of like, does that line up with anything? Like, is there, you know, try to find confluences for each other. It's kind of basically like what I'd be looking for. I'm not interested in this chart. Audio. Wow. So this is looking at the macro value area. So this tells me again that where would I be interested in? Probably way the hell down here. We're just gonna put you basically back at these lows here. So these kind of like, again, macro supports, and why they macro supports because it's basically the lowest support on the chart, right? Like it's literally like that's the biggest. I mean, they're huge levels in my opinion, just because of that. This just continues to break down. Are kind of coming back to test this consolidation where this point of control is, getting a bit of resistance here. There's really nothing. There's nothing of interest for me. Really nothing of interest. I would say yearly. I don't even know what year that is. That still. Holy crap. Okay, oh, so that was 2021 yearly open. And then this yearly open, which this is very likely going to become a yearly level because I don't think that this is going to pump that much in the next month. Could be wrong. This is a very big level though. So this is almost certainly going to be a yearly SR level back up here to $1.60. So if audio is in your, I don't know why am I going to 5 minute? But if audio is something that you own, and let's say again, like you're buying down here, or you're stuck in, I don't know, stuck in a bag or whatever the hell, that might be this $1.60 level is a absolutely massive level going forward. Very likely it's going to be. I mean, it already is a big level, but it's going to be a humongous level. And then you know, again, your macro value area is probably going to shift. It's probably going to shift because of how much time price is spending down here. But again, kind of where this value area high was, obviously very important. Very big level down. Very good level. So anyway, I already kind of told myself that that's where I would be interested. If I can even buy this, I'm not even sure. I used to be able to trade it, but I'm not sure if I can buy. Probably on KuCoin. It's got to be on KuCoin. Just notice Polymath got delisted. Binance. Oh yeah, did they? They did on Binance US a while ago because they did the whatever the hell, something an upgrade or something, but like a token swap. So yeah, it's PolyX now. That'll piss me off if that's true, because what happens sometimes when they switch tickers is that you lose all of the historical data, and it's like really irritating. And then like sometimes I've noticed they actually go back and give you like a new chart that has it, but yeah, that's gonna suck. So anyway, that's it. Very quick. AXS, this looks absolutely terrible. I was actually looking at this earlier. This looks awful. And I was asking, is there anybody here that actually like plays? Like, has anybody used it?
No, but I heard it's shit.
Well, it looks, if you're looking at it just based off of the chart, it looks absolutely terrible. I mean, this just continues to lose support. You had a monthly here, this monthly going back way over here. So you had like a pretty important monthly level. It literally gave you support, came back up to this key level. Look at that support, rejection, breakdown, even gave you a back test 3 days ago. Wow, that would have been nice. It just looks terrible. So it's like continuing to lose supports. And I would say, like, looking at it short term, it needs to flip really $11. It's not like this monthly would obviously be step one, but it really needs to get back above this 1130 level to really like have some kind of meaningful retracement, like push to the upside. But I mean, if I have all my levels done, this is like a $5 altcoin. This is not good. I mean, I would say like, let me just delete this for a second. It's sad when you have to do this. Like, you see how I'm having to like adjust it because the price out here is so compressed because it had like a massive spike to the upside. Like, this is one that I would say, I mean, and the why I even like this monthly at $5, it would literally retrace everything, like which is kind of what you would expect from an altcoin, right? You literally like it would fade the entire pump. If you look at where that started, that literally took you to the high. So, like, having an opinion and seeing this happen so many times, I really do think that AXS can, I think there's actually a fair chance of it coming back down to $5. Which, if you like the project at $5, is probably, I mean, again, like, I think the risk reward there. You guys hear me okay? My computer just did like this weird, I don't know if you saw it, it was like kind of refreshing.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So yeah, it's down 95% from all-time high. It's very unfortunate, but if anybody really bought above like in this region here, this is one that I'm not convinced will come back. Like, I really don't know if this one ever comes back to these highs. Even next cycle, like, you don't. That's just, this is like immense weakness. And again, maybe like something happens with AXS where they have a new product. I have no idea. But just looking at this and kind of like what my gut says, this is bad. So like, if anybody, I don't know how the hell you'd be trapped from this high and hold it, but it's not looking great. So yeah, for me, AXS, unless it reclaims really this 1130, again, this, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not interested in this. If anything, I'm interested in a short. But it's, you know, as far as priority list and all the other stuff that I trade, this isn't really on my radar, to be honest. But if it came down to this level, I could see a reason to get interested. For at least, you know, maybe not necessarily like a macro, like some kind of like long-term, you know, hold for years type of deal or anything like that. But I think at some point you're gonna get a pretty nice bounce. Again, I wouldn't be targeting all-time highs or anything like that. It'd be hard for me to get that excited about a chart like this. But I think like will it ever come back and test the underside of this range at 43? I think it very much will at some point. So that's kind of like how I would look at that. Like, I think there's a very good probability, assuming the project isn't completely dead, which even if it's completely dead in like hyper bull markets, you'll see, like, you've seen everything, everything pumps. It's just like an order of magnitude, right? Like, depends like how, I mean, you have stuff like old stuff like Dash and all of that stuff that, you know, like, everything moves. It's just a matter of like how much does it move. So I think like AXS ever see 43 again. I think that it will. This might not be for a while. And outside of that kind of a move, it'd be hard for me to get like super excited about ever seeing triple digits or something like that, but you never know. This is crypto. Anything can happen. Badger, this is an airdrop. I don't really care. This looks absolutely terrible. And I apparently have 2 charts. So this should be here. So this is basic attention token. Again, kind of coming in back into like macro point of control. Got really close. Got really nice moves off of those. Pretty nice move off of that. Looks like it's trying to come in and give you another test of that. If you like that, could be a nice opportunity. This is crazy. And I remember typically when I don't have the macro value area lows, because I want like less lines on my chart, because it's like completely irrelevant to where price is, but you see how magically things become relevant again. So the point of control hasn't changed. Pretty nice range. Again, going back here, it's kind of like one of those, what I would say, again, like pretty nice range. Back here would necessarily, probably like not necessarily disregard those highs, but for me, it's more about kind of seeing where my cursor is, kind of like using this as a range high. If you lose this point of control, then you kind of have, again, the very base of this in this big push to the upside, which this was 2021 yearly open. So this yearly open up here is, again, going to very likely be a yearly level. But, you know, a move back down to 2021 yearly open, I think is very, very possible and wouldn't surprise me remotely. A push, again, a push down anywhere in this region. Kind of looking back, so this is like your, I would say, so like if I was to draw a box, like I did on those other ones, for me, it's probably here. So if I'm looking to, BAT's one of those where like, it's, let's say it's one of like the major altcoins, but it's up there. It's like, there's one that gets kind of a lot of attention. It's readily available. You know, this is one that I have traded quite a bit before. I haven't traded in a while, but I would trade it. Wouldn't have any problem with it. This is really where I would be interested. This is basically back around 2021 yearly open, macro value area low, again, coming into like major macro supports, right? Like for me, again, assuming nothing's completely dead with the project, which I don't think that's the case. I just think it's just like, this is very much what bear market looks like. And any push back into these lows probably ends up being a pretty nice opportunity for a long-term hold. So again, not advice, but if I was looking for a place to take a shot on BAT and just buy a bag and walk away for a while, set my take profits probably relatively high. This is where I would want to do business. Like this is where I would want to be a buyer myself. Is basically back at your, again, what's been historical support, and you look at how much time price is spent above this yearly open. Now, again, is this giving us all the data? I don't know. I think that looks about accurate. Maybe there's something out there, a little bit more data. I know, again, this is another BTC, so there was a tradable. This is kind of where a lot of like the USDT pairs came to be, but arguably coming back into this region, it doesn't look too bad. Any questions on that? Pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Okay. So before I keep going, so what the hell is this? This must have been, somebody must have asked me about this. I have no idea what that, again, is this is really on Coinbase. Here's your Coinbase listing. This is your Coinbase listing. This reminds you of like ICP or something like that. Like this is so unfortunate. Like you literally get your Coinbase listing and then it's like a dump fest, right? Like it's just you get people to buy your bags and it's game over. Like this is when you see charts like this is honestly I think why crypto gets so much shit sometimes. You know, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the post I posted from our friend. I won't name his name. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want any more. I don't need any eyes on me. But needing investor protections. But like this is a freaking prime example of something that's just like again, it gets listed and it just dumps. It's just a massive dump. And now everybody is a bag holder essentially. I have no interest in this. I think we obviously had to been looking at the tail end of last year. Somebody had to have asked me about this, but this looks really bad. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even have any macro levels. So we were looking at this on listing, yeah, way back here, and I think this was like just trying to like look for any sort of. I mean, it was literally the first daily level that even came into be that was plotted. So this was very early, but this is just bad. This is like one of those things that you kind of look at and it's just you just shake your head, and will this thing have some kind of pump at some point? Yeah, it probably will. Which like off of these levels, it could even give you. I don't even want to say it because it's like this thing's such a piece of garbage. Like when you see a chart like this, I think that like the first thing that probably comes to your mind is, wow, like can't go much lower, right? Well, I'll give you news. It's at 39 cents. It can go a lot lower than that. Um, it can definitely continue to go lower. And this is just something for me that like I wouldn't have any interest in. So I'm actually going to delete this because I know like again looking at these the fact that there are 4 hour levels here and how this is we were looking at this very beginning because somebody probably asked, but this is not something I would touch. If you would have asked me in 2018, 2019 would I touch that, I probably would. But if you ask me now in 2022, no. Cake. Oh, the good old cake. Oh my. Wow. Having hindsight, especially now, that was a nice one. Um, that was a nice one. That is literally where I sold. We were actually covering cake a lot back then. I literally sold almost the high, and that was now we're sitting at $4, all the way down to 2. Wow, I mean, I guess that was like a pretty. That's kind of weird. That's not too bad. Um, whoops, did not want to do that. I mean, that's like a pretty decent move. So June 18th, so that was the low, right? That's when we 17.5 on BTC. And it's been kind of up only since then. Very like slow grinding. That's not the worst thing I've ever seen. Um I wouldn't touch it. No, for me, I'm not interested in it, but that's kind of weird. I haven't seen another chart that looks like that. Did anybody trade this? Yeah. This is kind of like a chart that I look at. I take my gold star and I just don't trade ever again because I'm gonna get wrecked. But yeah, I would say like getting back above. So obviously we're looking at, like I had to have looked at it back here, like when it actually broke down. I mean I wouldn't be surprised like when you get a fresh breakdown of Bitcoin like that off of the range that we were in coming into 17.5. Like this is probably the last time I went and actually looked at all the alts or a fair amount of them to see if there's anything out there. I think somebody asked me about this too. Um, really simple for me, nothing above like I wouldn't be that interested. I mean obviously like there's enough price action here for you to oh there you goes. Yeah. So Rogue was trading this at some point. Yeah, like it's not bad. This is different. It's kind of what I like about it. It's just different. It's not that bad. Definitely not one of well, I mean this is bad, but it's coming and making that low, even made a new low, and then gave you that push. It's not too terrible. Cello. So this is one that I actually used to trade quite a bit back in 2021. I actually traded that one. This looks like the project died, but I don't know. Kind of the same thing that I would say earlier. Again, just like continuation. If they're like there's just kind of flat lines for a while, I would consider maybe like looking for some kind of entry. Maybe. I don't know if I care that much. I'm not entirely sure. So I'm gonna move on. But it's kind of interesting. CFX, I don't know what the hell this is. Somebody probably asked me about this. I have no idea what that is. It looks terrible though. It's kind of the same thing, right? You lose, you just, again, support, massive support. Literally, huge support. Broken, come up, give you a back test. Wow. And then it just dies. Nothing. Anything to say. CKB, this is one I traded quite a bit back in the day. Basically back at your tether pair. So this is on KuCoin, so this is probably the oldest chart. Yeah, I traded this quite a bit back then. Haven't taken a trade on it in a long time. I don't know. This is one that like it might be worth poking around and seeing if there's anything going on. Bottom line, did it make new low? Barely. Let's see. This is more for fun. It's kind of like looking back at this level. Yeah, so I think it made like an equal low. Gave you a nice pop. That's a big, I mean, that's a pretty big pop. I mean, that's like, it's not bad. And kind of coming back into like, this is really the absolute support, right? So, and so here's a good example, okay, of why I look for these levels. This is actually a really good example of that. So a lot of the stuff that like the ones that we've covered, you see kind of my thought process behind this. This is kind of, now again, it's not guaranteed to work this way, but what happened on CKB, it came back to test the low, right? Like your critical support low, and it gave you 100% bounce. Will it do that every time? Not necessarily, but that's why, like this is actually a really good example why I look for those levels, because again, technical, like that's all we got, right? That's your last line of defense. Anything below this and it's black hole breakdown. There's nothing below there. We don't know what, like, price has never been at these levels. Is there any support? No, there's zero support. Well, that's not true. There's support at zero. That's your only support you got. But again, like just as far as like a purely technical play, right? So like you can go back and get the actual low and fast forward. That was your low. So it didn't get exactly to that low, but you get the point. Got a nice move off it. That's why those levels interest me. Now again, would I play that again? I don't know. Again, this is one that like I'm not really that interested in playing anymore. But if there was a reason to it, I suppose I would. It's just, this is not really one that I don't know if I would like. And I would pause this for a minute. And I've talked about this before, but again, I don't think it's ever been recorded. I think that positioning, so like I'm going to kind of shift gears here a little bit and talk about like positioning yourself in terms of like preparing for the next bull market, because it will come at some point. When that's going to be, I couldn't tell you, but we will have one again at some point. Now, the degree of that, if it's like whether or not Bitcoin sees new all-time highs, I think it does. At some point, I think Bitcoin's very likely to have a new all-time high. It might not be for a long time though. Like I've talked about this before, you know, again, kind of you talk about like the 2024 halving that's coming up. There's some catalyst there. Again, like there's a lot that needs to shift in the macro view to kind of like get like the real, like the full on risk, like the risk on market back. There's obviously a lot that needs to shift, but this is a game and that's measured in terms of years, right? Like this is like these ideas I'm talking about aren't something that are I'm going to be able to act on tomorrow or next week or probably next month, right? Again, things change, but the point is, like, you have to, well, one thing I would say, having traded in crypto for a while and like positioning yourself for kind of like the next really big move to the upside, whenever that is. Again, it could be next early next year, it could be the year after that, who knows. But you have to, like, it's going to be different for most people, and this is just my opinion, but it's going to be different for most people. And you have to kind of like look at like your portfolio size, your risk appetite, and kind of like what you're comfortable with, right? Are you going to get to where you want to get to? Which I think most people who are in this space, if you took like the majority of the participants that are going to try to be trading in a bull market, okay? So again, it's going to be a much larger size than currently still here. If you're still here, congratulations. You're probably going to do better than the people that come in late. But I think it's like important to have like a distinction between kind of like what your risk appetite is, your portfolio size, and kind of like what your goals are. Are you going to be able to meet, like, are you going to get where you want to get to participating in this space by being 100% in BTC? And what I mean by that is you look at price where it's at. So we're at 20K, right? 21K, 20K. If Bitcoin, like, we're a little over 3x from all-time high. So like if Bitcoin was to push from here, get back to all-time high, that's like a 3x. If you, again, is that enough? Now I'm just trying to keep it simple. I'm talking about no leverage, just spot. That's 3x from here, a little bit over. If Bitcoin gets to 100K, that's 5x from here. Are you happy with that? Is it good enough? Or do you do some form of diversification, which most people in here probably do? Do you look at Ethereum, which I think personally Ethereum probably has a lot more upside than BTC does? In the next cycle, I think ETH probably outperforms. It better hope it does, at least. But I think ETH has more upside. And then it kind of goes from there, right? Then you have alts. There's going to be a handful of altcoins that do spectacular, unbelievable type returns. Like you think of AXS, that, I mean, we can go back to the chart really quickly. You think of AXS, something that was literally measured sub $1, right? Like 10 cents, and it went to 160. Like, there's going to be these plays, but catching them early, which I'm going to save that discussion for a different one because this one's going to end up being 9 hours long. And this is another thing that I've covered a ton that hasn't been recorded, but there's a few of you in here who probably know where I'm going and have heard this from me before. Basically talking about like positioning yourself and kind of like trading that kind of environment, right? Like high time frame environment. But there's going to be altcoins that are going to have those type of insane returns. Now, of course, are you getting in early enough? Are you holding that long? I don't think that there's many people who are going to have that kind of timing where they buy something at 10 cents and sell it at $160. It's very rare, but you get my point. Like, the opportunities across the board are going to very likely, you're probably better off, again, especially if you have a smaller portfolio, which again, the risk is obviously drastically increased, but you're probably going to get rewarded for that, if, again, assuming you're in the right stuff, right? But like if you have a small portfolio, like especially like I shouldn't do numbers, but if it's small to you and you're really trying to magnify that, right? Because you're in here, hopefully like you have like everything, this is just play money, and you know you're doing well enough in your normal life to not really like concern yourself so much. Like crypto like isn't like live or die depending on your crypto portfolio, right? Which hopefully that's not the case. But again, I think like those altcoin plays that's going to be the ones that change your portfolio. Arguably this late in the game for Bitcoin, this late in the game for Ethereum, I think it can help your portfolio. I think it can do well. I certainly think that, like, I don't see any problem with owning it. I own some. But again, everybody's portfolio is different. Like, and like where you're at in terms of like meeting your goals, right? Everybody's gonna be a different spot. The further you are away from those goals, the more inclined I personally would be to be looking at kind of, again, what's new and shiny. That's very challenging though, because for everything that works, there's 50 that don't or more, which is kind of the risk. But I think that's where like research comes in, and that's like you really got to put in a lot of energy and effort into that to position yourself. And I've given tons of examples of stuff that I got into early on, dot at 80 cents before the split. I mean, there's tons of those that I've gone through that I'm not going to iron out here because it's going to take me forever. And I want to sound like I'm patting myself on the back. But the point is, a lot of that came from research. A lot of that came from like energy expended to find those types of opportunities, and you can do incredibly well, right? The last thing I'll say about that I think is really important though. So again, smaller the portfolio, probably be looking for the riskier stuff because that's going to give you the better plays. Bitcoin and ETH probably not going to take you to the promised land. Hey, if Bitcoin goes to $1 million, like you hear being thrown out there, if Bitcoin goes to $1 million and you have the balls to hold on to $1 million, then maybe it gets you there. I don't know. But let's just say that I think alt's probably the better vehicle, more, again, albeit tremendously more difficult and challenging, but that's probably what is going to get you there, or at least give you a shot. Now, the last thing I'm going to say, which I think is the most important part about that, and something that I learned personally, is that I think like there's the word diversification, and people teach you like, the more diversified you better, you kind of like have your capital split amongst a bunch of different things, and overall you're going to have some winners, you're going to have some that don't, like you're going to have the seeds that don't sprout, right? The thing is, if you have too many that you picked incorrectly and they don't move, they die, or they just pump like a tiny bit, and then you have the one that gives that you get the 100x, right? Or bigger. The problem is then you're so like you're not invested. You're like the size that you have in that 100x, like still doesn't get you anywhere. Like maybe it helps you out a lot, but maybe it like you missed the mark though, and it doesn't really change anything. It's not like life changing, right? That's kind of what I would say too, is that I think what's not a bad idea is to pick fewer horses but have more on them. But again, that comes from research, that comes from conviction, like which comes from the research, right? And like feeling like you got a good horse in the game, like that you feel good about that. But like spreading your money around way too much, and then again watching some things drastically outperform others, watching things drastically underperform the market, which again is going to be probably more often than not. That's kind of the dangers of doing that, and then you end up not changing things like too much. Does anybody have any questions about that? Is anybody here saying, what the hell is this guy talking about? So again, it's going to be situationally, it's going to be dependent on what like your particular situation is. It's going to be very dependent on that. But arguably, I think like that's really important, and I don't like I hate to see people overlook that, and then things go on a run at some point, because they very likely are going to have another nice big run at some point, and then you're like, why the hell's my portfolio not moving like I think it should be, right? So again, I think there's like tremendous opportunity on the horizon. You look at a lot of these levels that we're going into, a lot of the stuff, again, like a lot of the levels that we're coming into, a lot of the stuff that doesn't exist yet, or like that's being worked on now, but maybe can't get in for whatever reason. Like this is all stuff that I would really encourage people to prepare themselves for, because when it happens, it's going to be too late. So hopefully, like, that makes sense. Like, you can't start to do these things to prepare yourself when it's already happening, because you're already behind. And then you're going to, like, as you're trying to catch up, you're going to be more and more and more behind. And then when you finally figure like you got it all figured out, you're probably not going to be in the position you want to be in at that point. So that's just my thoughts. A little bit of a different, I would say this is more, again, like, we're focused, the charts that we've looked through so far, again, it's like very much macro focused, high time frame. Any type of like entries or zones I'm looking for, those are not typically regions. Like, if I get a fill there, I'm not looking, like, this is me personally, again, I can only speak for myself. But like, if I'm getting filled there, I'm not looking for a 20% move. That's me. So I'm not, like, I will not fill on an altcoin at these levels and be looking for that type of move. I'm positioning myself for much bigger move. That requires a ton of patience. So this is obviously much different stream, much different conversation than what we typically have, because a lot of 99% of what I talk about is short term, right? We're looking literally, we're on lower time frames, looking for setups. We're, like, this is not that. This is much different. How long have I been going? 20? Have I really only been going 29 minutes? It feels like 2 hours already. There's no way. Please tell me this didn't reset.
I'm not sure. It feels kind of longer, yeah.
It did reset.
Yeah, what you said, it totally makes sense. I mean, we need to get in positions now. The first couple of percent are the most upside, have the biggest lever. If something already like moved for 100%, the lever will be much smaller up to the all-time high.
Yeah. So like, and so to be really clear, like, again, like, the positions that I'm looking for, I'm not looking for all-time high necessarily, but I'm looking for, like, when I get filled there, I'll find my target. So again, it's different. It's like, it's different. I'm not going to be having an exact specific setup, and that's like, I guess I really shouldn't recommend that anybody do that, but I feel very comfortable managing myself at those levels. So anyway, well, the stream restarted 30 minutes ago, so I think that's when I was asking, like, does everybody still hear me okay? Because, like, my computer did this weird thing. I think the stream cut. It's recording again, so we might have part 1 and part 2. Hopefully that's what happened.
Your voice cut for like 10 seconds.
Did it? Yeah, great. Well, nothing I can do about it now. But anyway, so comp looks like absolute. It looks terrible. So, like, again, this is like new lows. It just doesn't look very good. Comp was like big time DeFi project. This is one that, so like, I'm going to tell you what my miss was on here, and it has not even to do with trading. I could have been farming. So Compound was like one of the first things that at least I can remember where you could farm, like, you could do yield farming, and it was like insane. If you were super early into it, like, the people who were farming this just made like a significant sum of money. So like, one thing I'll say, as far as like thinking ahead and looking at like what the next cycle looks like, what's like, it's like looking at kind of what the theme, everything is a theme, right? And like back in 2020, 2019, 2020, we had rotations. right? So like we had DeFi summer, for example. Like we have rotations that kind of like led. It was like DeFi, and then there was gaming, and there was like rotations that were pretty clear. Um, that was taking place. One thing I would say is to try to, again, with those trends, like stay on top of what's going on. This is one that I missed, and I didn't know anything about yield farming, like all, and like trying to like back then it was like using Ethereum and trying to like figure all that out. Like that was very challenging. I was like, man, this is like way above my head. But if I had just taken the time to like and I got, the thing is, like I understood that it was like what was happening was important. I just, it was exactly what I said a few minutes ago of not starting something when I, like the first time I get the inkling to do it, and putting it off, and then by the time I'm like, hey, I gotta figure this out, it was too late. Like, and then it was like a lot of like the benefit had been had already. So I would say like compound is one of those that's a prime example of what I had said earlier in the stream, of just being late to it, and like, but like missing a very big opportunity that, like, again, like people did very well, like substantial sums of money got made doing that. Unfortunately for this chart, it looks absolutely terrible. And I, again, for me, no real interest. No real interest. I'll probably move on. This is one that, like, again, if this develops over time, maybe it comes back down to 26 support. About, you know, if this is something that develops over time, I might get kind of interested in it. But I don't even know what the hell Compound's doing these days. I don't know. Like, I'd have to like really go and see, like, take a look and do some homework. But yeah, there's nothing really there.
Probably only for voting. Probably it's only used for voting in the DAO or something.
Yeah, I don't know. That's why, like, a lot of these, again, it's like, are like the stuff that led and was a big part of the cycle, right? The bull cycle we just got out of. Is that stuff going to have a meaningful, drastic impact next cycle? I think DeFi has a shot. It's still, in my opinion, it's still like pretty new, right? Arguably, maybe there's some newer DeFi stuff that comes out that gets a lot of attention. I don't know, but like this, you know, again, what's likely to be like the real crazy outstanding opportunity probably isn't here yet. That's my guess. Like, it's probably not here yet. Like, you gotta figure it out, right? Um, so whatever this is, I remember trading this back in the day. It's at a pretty important level, arguably, but this still looks, I wouldn't really be that interested in it. Yeah, I mean, really, like, this is kind of one of those that I think has a chance to come down quite a bit lower. So it's really not, again, this is one I'm going to tell you right now that I'm probably not, unless something changes and there's news coming out, or I have no idea, but I wouldn't, it's probably one that I wouldn't be getting into. But if I was looking, it would be somewhere, again, back at like these macro lows, and kind of like go from there. Curve, this is one that, oh, like, again, geez, again, another miss. This is another miss. I don't know. This is another miss. But like, so this, again, good example of what I said. Comes back into macro support, right? In this case, the point of control, big time support. Look at the move you get. Like, I'm not even gonna cherry pick the low. Just off of this level, 180%. Like, that's why, again, why I look for these levels. Is it gonna be like that every time? No, but it's just, that's a miss. I traded curve a lot back here, and then not so much here, but that was a nice one. So for me, I'll tell you right now, like where's the level of interest, and I probably would want to go through and more like a very quick glance. Here's obviously like the low, right? So I would put this key level. Whoops, that's not what I want to do. But and this is a very big zone. I can say like arguably, depending on like what your thoughts are, this region is arguably where I'd want to do it. This region, very attractive. Without, again, knowing anything else, this was already tested. If this comes back and this level is lost, so you have to think, what scenario would it take for that to happen? Market meltdown, Bitcoin breaking support, right? Like us finding our way below 17.5 and searching for the next support. That's probably what it would take to kind of like break this macro point of control region. If it did, for me, again, it wouldn't be too much of an argument, especially if you thought Curve had a bright future. Wouldn't be too much of an argument to want to start to ladder into this region. But to me, like the real insane value from a technical standpoint is really coming back to revisit this level, and the fact that we had a monthly here. Like you have this pocket of, like you could even base risk off if you're not too bad, right? Like if you start to lose this key level, get acceptance, then there's nothing, there's no support there. So you're like, oh, like maybe this isn't the best idea. Now arguably percentage wise, that's probably pretty ugly, but I think again, over the long term, if Curve was to visit this level, what's the chances of it you seeing, again, I'm not necessarily saying Curve's ever going to go to $7 again. I don't know. Maybe it does. Again, if there's like, I know that Curve's used a lot, so maybe, but I think that like the odds of getting a pretty nice, at some future date, a nice move off of this level makes sense to me. So that's kind of like, for this one, it's kind of like two boxes. Miss this one, don't like that, upset. But another test of this possibly depends. I guess what I would say for this is, what does the market look like if Curve is testing this? Like what's everything, what's Bitcoin doing mostly? And if we don't like what it's doing and we're knifing through this because we're finding low support at levels we haven't been at for a long time, then it's probably this green region that is like the very, very, very interested in that. So this is one. I don't have an alert yet. So I like, for me, I don't put it at the level, I put it slightly above because I want to be like alerted. Again, it might not even come back and touch that. Like, you could get like a little quick wick down here and then a move off of, I don't know. You see the little notes I make for myself. That's actually one that would be kind of interesting. CTK, I feel like, did we go over this one already? Or no, I always get those confused. CKB and CTK. This is another one that, I mean, this is like really weird. It's very, very weird. So it's like you had this really like fairly decent range, and then you got a nice breakout of it. And then it's like, I mean, I need to walk you through everything, but that's like interesting. This is kind of interesting. Now you're back in the range, right? Like you're back just trading right within this range, but you actually, again, got like a nice move to the upside. Of course, like the good old shitcoin that it is, it completely reverses the entire thing, which is why, like, especially if you know that you're in a bear market. So this is kind of like, I don't want to spend too much time talking about Dogecoin, but I know, like, I spoke a ton about it in chat already. Like, it wouldn't surprise me in the least, again, especially if Elon goes quiet for a while, doesn't talk too much about Doge. Like this, I mean, we could literally fade the entire pump. Especially on market week, like we see Bitcoin starting to break supports, and it's gonna like it's going to drag everything with it for the most part. That's one that I've spoke at length about in chat already, so I don't want to cover it too much, but that's kind of a dangerous one to be playing right now, in my opinion. That's kind of dangerous. But another Now I would argue Doge is probably not the same class as CTK, but again, you get it. Big move up, complete fade. You're in what, again, this is humongous support. If you love this, whatever the hell this is and does, I don't remember. I think I knew at some point. You're probably looking here. I just messed that up, didn't I? A little bit deeper than that. But anyway, this is kind of like your big macro support. You're low, get your impulse and move off of it. Now again, this is the very beginning. This is all we got, right? Low, impulse, comes back down to retest this support, massive move up. Comes back down, what does it do? Retest the damn thing again, big move up. What does it do? Come back down, base off of here, give you that nice move up. Come, like, you get the point. This is support. It's support until it's not. If you lose this, you're in serious trouble. So this is one I'd argue that's actually pretty well defined. This is very clear support. If you break this, there is nothing below except 0. Now, I'm not saying it's going to 0, but there's nothing below here. So who knows? Pretty clear though.
Yep. But T, I have a question.
Sure.
What's the best way? Someone's probably thinking this in here. What's the best way to avoid all that? Probably will not have a astronomical run.
It's a really good question. What's the best way to avoid?
Avoid the shitters, yeah.
What I would say, that's like a very, very, very good question, and I'm gonna try my best to give you a good answer. This is probably one that I'll think of after this stream is done and then give you a better answer, but I'll try to answer that now. I think like past performance is really important, right? So like this is one that I think about when I look at AXS again. Like I kind of like walk through, like if it moves down to $5, like how do you know? Like again, this is broken. This is a chart that it's one of the ugliest charts I've seen. Performance wise, like since the high was put in, right? Like this thing literally, I mean, it tried here to put in some kind of a base and completely broke that down. You see the reaction, right? Like once we broke this level, it was over. Like there's really no strength in this chart whatsoever. If anything, I mean, you really broke down here. If anything, this looks a lot more like redistribution before another breakdown. So it's like, you know, when I see stuff like this, I get less inclined to want to play them. So charts that are like, so the ones I deleted, which I don't think I can get back, is this one. Like, you know the ones that I deleted that I'm like, this looks absolutely terrible, no interest. It's basically like, so like especially the ones that like Coinbase listed and then they just went to 95% straight down. Like I see that. The old me would like, that's kind of like degenerate, you know, I'd be like, like I'm like, I think I can make this work type of thing. I like those. I immediately dismiss. That's one that like, that's again, does it pop at some point? Probably, but it's very unlikely that if anything's gonna come of a chart like that, that it would have had some kind of heartbeat. It would have had something to tell you that like there's a reason to want to be interested in that. That's just a straight dump. Again, going back to AXS, will this ever get back to 160? I don't think it will ever, because of how this happened, right? And you kind of look at the price action. It was just literally like breakdown, consolidation, breakdown again. Like here, failed. Unless there's some kind of fundamental change within this project, I don't see it ever going back to 160, even in like the most bullish markets ever. I just don't see it. So like again, this is kind of why I spoke I took some time to speak about like getting your thoughts in order and positioning, and like trying to like think about your positioning for like the upcoming, you know, again, I say the upcoming bull market like it's tomorrow or something. It's not, it could be a long time from now, but I'm just saying, like, use the time wisely. But it's probably going to be new stuff. Like that's where a lot of my attention will be, as things happen, like progress from here. That's where a lot of my attention is going to be, like, shift to like what's new. What do I think could like get a foothold? And like my initial gut feeling is that it'll probably be metaverse related. Just a guess. But I don't know. But AXS that's probably, I don't know if that's going to benefit from that though.
You show an example of a coin that I think would continue, like why that's because like
Yeah. Yeah.
I would look at AXS and I would think it's okay. I don't know why.
Well, like the thing is, it's not that you can't get a nice trade off of it though. It's not, I want to say that. It's just like, do I think AXS is going to make new all-time high? My answer is no. I think it's very unlikely to make a new all-time high as it sits. Like, unless there's some kind of fundamental change, like a fundamental reason to be really bullish on AXS again, I don't see it. Right? So that's kind of like it's not outside the scope, but again, it's like we talk about technical analysis. There's absolutely nothing here that tells me that we're going to be seeing that. Like, but you know what I'm saying? It's just not. Like, it looks like it's done. But at $5, I'm interested in. But aside from that, and like a lot of the stuff, so like a lot of the stuff, again, it's like you have to. Again, it's not necessarily something the chart is going to tell you, if that makes sense. It's like, do I think, I mean, I guess Bitcoin, you can make an argument. ETH, you could probably make an argument. But like some of the altcoins, for example, so like I'll tell you again, something that I don't expect to make a new all-time high. It might, you never know. It would have to be like an immensely bullish market, but Litecoin. So like we can actually look at Litecoin, okay? So like Litecoin, I've said over and over again that like if we get to here, so I'll highlight my zone. I don't need to for myself because I already know. We get down here, I'm long. I'm interested. I don't care. That's just me. You look back historically, if I was to drag this over, God, this is so irritating. I need to fix this. There, make it easy. Extend left. So like you go back. Now obviously this is like on the big run up, 2017, 2016, 2017, like way early on in Litecoin's life. But you look at this, 2018, right? Might be a little bit easier on a weekly. Let me delete this. So you look back at like after you had this big move up, where does it come into? This region. So this is 2018. I was trading Litecoin then. You come back in 2020. Where's the bottom? This green region, right? Another bottom. Comes up, makes almost an equal all-time high. Where, if you ask me, hello TA sir, where are you interested in Litecoin? It's very simple. It's literally right here. What am I expecting off of this? So like, am I expecting a new all-time high for Litecoin? No. You saw what transpired in 2021. The tail end of 2020, 2021, right? To like get this kind of a push across the board. I'm not expecting to hit 420. It's possible. It's possible Litecoin goes to $1,000. Anything's possible. But I'll tell you this, and I've said this before, if I get filled here, I think that there is every opportunity. Now again, this is just me. It's not advice or anything like that. I would be looking for a 10x off of this level. I think I would get it. Would I wait for a 10x to take something off? Probably not. But this is not an area, if I'm getting filled here, this is not an area where I'm going to be looking for a 20% move. Like I said earlier, this is not it. If I'm getting filled here, this is like, I'm looking for 5x minimum because I think I get it. If I'm patient enough, I get it. Probably a lot more, but that's my opinion. Now, again, this is like this. You see how like my conviction is in with this is different than some of the others because I played Litecoin quite a few times. When Litecoin comes to these levels, it's like the worst shitcoin ever because everybody thinks it's dead and nothing's happening. But magically, when it comes in here, it gets filled. It just tends to do okay, you know. I really think that this probably holds up again. That's my guess. And this is one altcoin I'm going to tell you right now that I will put my money on. So I'm just going to call it like it is. But that's how I feel. So is this an example where, again, like, do I think it makes a new all-time high? I think it's possible. I'm going to tell you right now, probably like I wouldn't be holding my entire position. I wouldn't be holding my entire position to like wait for this level. I'm probably would be selling some on the way up. Unless the one caveat to that is if I feel like for whatever reason as we came into this level. So again, the question for me would be if we come into this region, where's Bitcoin at? Where's the rest of the market at? And if it's at a level, which if you think about what is it going to take to get Litecoin down sub 30, you have to probably wager guess either Litecoin's dead and somebody said, you know, Charlie Lee said it's a piece of trash and it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then it like diverges from the rest of the market, then I wouldn't be bidding here. But if Bitcoin broke support, is pushing down again, like 12, 13K. I'm just throwing numbers out there because I'm trying to think like what would it take to actually get Litecoin to come down to these levels? If Bitcoin is coming into what I deem to be macro support in an area where I want to play, then my viewpoint on where I'm looking to exit this position might change. Does that make sense? It's very much dependent on like what else is going on in the market. If I think I got a good low, and I feel like I'm getting my, like, kind of like where I'm interested in positioning myself for like the next few years, I might be very patient with this position then, if that makes sense. It depends. It's like, it depends on like how we came into that. But I'll tell you again, like coming into here, I feel very confident in saying that I'm going to get an exit that's multiples higher of where I enter. That's me though. So again, I'm like, please, everybody in here, take what I say with a grain of salt, okay? Like, don't follow what I'm doing. But, like, that's just, again, I think you can see the difference on an example like this. Litecoin being like a dinosaur coin, by the way, that's, like, been around the block, you know? It's been around for a long time. But, like, that's... I did business here last time in this region. And judging by how well I did doing that, I would love to do it again. Well, even if I'm wrong, just buy more. It broke below this level, but I was very happy with that. I was right last time. So will I be right again? Again, conviction-wise, I feel like it's a good place for me to take a shot. But you see how patient I am with it. Where's Litecoin at right now? It's at 55 bucks. Am I interested in Litecoin here? No, I'm not. I'm not. If it never comes here, then guess what? It never comes there. And that's okay with me. But that's just kind of where I'm interested in looking for a play. So there's no chance. There's absolutely no chance I'm going to get through all these. There's no chance. So here's Dash. If these levels are still valid, again, coming into your macro value area low, give you a stab below. Not really, I mean, arguably that's pretty good bounce. And then you see I didn't take it from the low, like that's pretty good bounce. But I mean, it's not like the best reaction, still pretty weak overall. This is another coin that's been around forever. Like you can see, like it's this one of those old ones. It went up. I could have sworn Dash went higher than this. Maybe I'm wrong. No, that's probably why I'm using Poloniex. I thought Dash went higher than this. Wouldn't have, because that'd be it. Anyway, so like here's a good example though of why it's kind of dangerous to be looking for previous cycle altcoins. This is like probably the best example I'm gonna be able to, like one of the better examples. Dash obviously had a massive run up in 2017, right? 20K Bitcoin, Dash at 1500, like that's a very nice run up. And you look at where it came from, like way lower. However, bear market hits, big move down. You look at the best that Dash could do in a very violent and strong bull market that we just came out of. Dash couldn't even make it to the 382. Like this is immense weakness. In terms of what the market did, right? This is immense weakness comparative to like what like the rest of the market. If you bought Dash, now where did you buy Dash? That's also, so again, where did you buy it? If you bought it down here, arguably like you had a pretty nice, I mean that's pretty decent, right? But compared to like a lot of amazing things that took place there, if you had 100% of your money in Dash, you probably would like, and again, that's assuming you perfectly bought and sold, which we don't know what he does that. Well, very, very select few people. I certainly don't time tops and bottoms that well, but you get my point. Like that's tremendous underperformance compared to what everything else did, in the same time frame, like what a lot of other projects did. Now that's again, Dash is kind of like one of those dinosaurs that's still around, and you know it's obviously still being traded, but it's just immense weakness, right? And then obviously this cycle ends. Look at that, typical altcoin, and then just dies off back to these lows. It's back. It's like giving you those entries again, and arguably, like quite a few of the other altcoins aren't even anywhere near like where those entries would be. Does that make sense? Like that I've shown. Like Dash already given you that entry, and a lot of the other alts are kind of like the ones that I would be a little bit more interested in are still like would have a ways to go to get there. Like Litecoin. Litecoin's a good example, and I'd say it's very comparative in terms of like being a dinosaur coin and you know getting the same interplay. Litecoin almost went up to its all-time high. It basically hit. That's basically a double top. Okay, basically hit its all-time high from the low. Like that was way more strength than something like this. Tremendous more difference versus the two. And Litecoin still has like a substantial drop to get to the level of like where I'd be interested in it, right? It says 55. It needs to trade, you know, substantially lower than where Dash already is. So like this is a good example. Again, if something fundamentally changes with the project, then maybe you might see a push up here, which if some reason Dash pumped and gave me $1,000, I would short that all day long. Like I would short that. I would short it massively. But I don't think I'm probably gonna get that chance, to be honest with you. But anyway, like this is an example where like I look at this, I don't have any interest in it. So I don't know if that helps, Ape, like with your question, but this is one just looking at how, like, again, comparison to other similar projects. Now again, Litecoin and Dash aren't like the same thing, but you get my point. Like they've been around a long time. They're like you can make there's I would argue there's a lot of similarities though. And you look at performance, this one tremendously underperformed. It right. So one, I would not really care to like park my money into here, because like, I mean again, like what are you looking for? You know how much effort it would take to get Dash back up to 220? Like how much effort that would take, or even like back up to even this high? Like that's not, I would argue that like there's better avenues to be in. That's me though. Yeah, I could be wrong. Should I wake up tomorrow and Dash at, you know, somewhere up here, and I'd be like, well, I'm dumb, but I don't, this one doesn't look very good.
Do
So
you think on that last run up, after 2018, you saw that move, that weakness down, you wouldn't be interested in Dash.
What do you mean?
Like if you just cut this chart, you were in.
Oh, from here.
Yeah,
Like before this pump.
exactly.
Yeah, I think no. I mean, I think okay. So here's the flip side of that too. Is why it's also really important to check out the BTC pairs too, because you look at the Bitcoin pairing for this, it's probably like, oh man, like especially around here, it's probably, you know, probably pretty rough. But argue again, like here, coming back, looking at these areas, so like you can see like where I would have been pretty interested in, right? Looking back at like historical kind of levels, if I was even able to get filled here. Again, like it still did well. I mean, it moved up, right? But like comparing it to others, I'd say it didn't do very well. But like the thing is, like as you start to along this way, I think you probably are going to get a feeling much sooner than not that you're falling behind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you think it's a bit of intuition as well.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. 100%. It definitely is. Yeah. It definitely is. And like, to be honest with you, now if you had put me back here, right now, obviously we have the beauty of seeing this, and like, which is nice because I think I can make pretty good judgments based off of it. But again, like rewind back here, arguably would be looking here. I would be. But I think it's kind of the same thing. Like, I think you're probably going to get a feel for this relatively early that you're not following. Like, think about this. You look at where, like, March 2021, you go back and you look again, like, 2021 was insane. Turn January, or if I remember this correctly, Bitcoin was at like 30K January 1st. We were just making like that push into 30K. And then also like January to May was like a gigantic all season. You're telling me this is where we're at? You know what I'm saying? You would expect more. So like I think you could have figured out relatively early enough into the move that like this wasn't going to get there. It's very unlikely, right? Or I could argue that even looking, obviously again we see that it didn't, but I could make that argument that we would have seen that. And probably again, like if I was in this, I probably would have jumped ship a long time ago and like try to like get somewhere else, because I think that's part of the game too. It's kind of like musical chairs sometimes. If you're wrong and you feel like your thesis for being in a position is invalidated, right? It's like anything else. It can be based on any, like again, it's not just like what, like I mean, I guess the chart is going to be a big part of that, but there could be other factors that lead you to want to reposition. Like that could be one that like you could see another. I want to reallocate this money to something that actually like looks like it's ready to rip. You know what I'm saying? Like so like again, there's numerous different ways to play it.
Yeah, I remember it was kind of like everything was just pumping. Like,
Yeah,
money was just pumping.
yeah. It's like everything was like you're like euphoria. You know, everything was just like you're a genius. You know, so how many people got in and like swore they were so smart, and then we don't want to talk about the second half of that year. But anyway, I think this is a good example though. You know, like if you're going through your charts, especially stuff that's been around now, there's not gonna be like a ton of examples of this. I mean, there's gonna be obviously some stuff that has been around multiple cycles now. But if you are looking at stuff like this, I would just kind of like you saw again, Litecoin. I think that was a beautiful example where it gave you a move all the like again, it was basically a double top. The thing is, if there's something like I guess like really looking at it like that on the next cycle, I don't know what's going to happen, obviously, but the fact that we did double top, I could see a case where we run that. And what happens if we hold? You know what I'm saying? Like Litecoin to 1,000 is going to be trending on Twitter. I'll just say that. Like if that happens, but I think like the environment would have to, again, if there's something that changes with Litecoin itself, who knows? But I think like that candidate looks so much better to me than like what we're looking at right now. Like this looks absolutely shit. This looks bad. So anyway, I'm gonna cut it there because I feel like I've been going on for a while, and I'm praying that the first 30 minutes of my stream actually made it. Because it'd be unfortunate if it didn't. But I'm gonna cut it there, and I'm willing to shift gears for the last little part of this if anybody wants me to. Or if there's another chart that you're interested in, we can go over that, but I'm going to stop going down the line. I only made it to like the D's. I only made it to here, unfortunately. I still have, a fair amount to go. But I think by now, if it was beneficial and you kind of get an idea for like what I'm looking for in terms of, it's really, to me, it's about macro support, right? And it is really about what the chart did. Like how did the chart behave in the last cycle that we just came out of? If it was trading there, some of the stuff might be newer, obviously. Well, here's one. You want to look at this one really fast? You remember asking me about this one, Ape?
Oh yeah, this was when I was a noob. I was trading this.
Do you see like what I was talking about back then? And like, let me tell, like when you lose this level, and this is a good example here of what happens when you lose the support that you have. And when you start trading below and it becomes a black hole breakdown, right? And there's no support below you, this chart illustrates what can happen when you break support. It's the same thing as a blue sky breakout. If I was to invert this chart and we broke all-time high, and you know what I'm saying, and there's nothing above you, the same follow through happens to the downside. And we were talking about, I mean, look at like where we were plotting. We were talking about DYDX back here at like $10. I remember this. But like if you look, again, it's a weekly chart, but we like literally broke below support, came back up and back tested this where this value area low was, right? Like literally where we were looking at it, and then died. So we haven't looked at this chart in a really long time, but like this is the danger of like, and like this is something that if anybody who's like really new to trading, you have to understand that like a lot of what we just went over with macro supports is support until it's not. And if it goes below that level where there's no historical support, this is what you gotta look out for. It's gonna happen, right? You gotta be prepared. So anyway, I just thought that's definitely the last one that I'm gonna go over. But I saw it and I saw the price and I was like, this is one we gotta cover, because I remember going over this one. I think this is probably one too. Oh my goodness, look at that, just straight down. I remember somebody asked me about flow, and I think it was like up here somewhere, and it was just, I'm pretty sure this is one that somebody asked me, and it was just in like a nasty downtrend, and it's like stay away, stay away, stay away. And look at it. Like, I mean, now okay, maybe we're bottoming finally, maybe, I don't know, but this is nasty. This is another one. Like, look at this. Like, it's listed. Look at when it gets listed. So it's like, what is this, July? So does that, like, it's a little bit past like all-time high, and like, things are cooling off. You get kind of like a little bit of a pump up because this is the next greatest thing, I'm sure, and then it just dies. Like, this is terrible. It's really unfortunate. So is there any anything that you guys want to go over?
Yeah. How to charge new charts like Aptos? I have no idea how to chart it. I mean, there is no price action yet.
So if you're gonna do that, right, the only thing that you can do, which here's what I'll say, which we can look at this. It's very new. I thought I had some kind of levels on here. I guess I didn't. Is it here? No. I could have sworn I had. No, I think I was trying to find it. Where is it?
I think Rope did some charting.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I thought I charted this a little bit. But like, here's what I'll say. First of all, when you have something that's brand new, I I don't really trust the. I don't really trust. I trust price action. I don't really trust a ton of other stuff though. When it's that new, like I really don't like trading new charts very much. There is, and Aptos is one that what I was waiting for, what I would have liked to seen was honestly a higher push because I would have loved to have taken a short on that, to be honest with you. I didn't get it. I haven't taken a single trade on this. But this is one that had a lot of attention too. And again, it's like the mechanics behind it, like there was a lot of negative press about it, you could say. And it just didn't look appealing for me to want to take a position anyway, so I didn't bother trying to trade it at all. But it's really kind of difficult because you're dealing with a lot of dynamics too, like when you have something that's newly listed, you know what I'm saying? I don't know, like there's a lot of like variables that you probably would want to be aware of. But in this particular case, I mean, I would say enough time has passed to where you could like start to formulate some kind of trading plan. Arguably though, for me, like it's not worth doing. And this is especially one, like I think like the only reason that I would bother is if I was very interested in the chart, if that makes sense. And or I mean not the chart, but if I was very interested in the altcoin itself, then I would bother. But typically, so like a lot of the newer stuff that's going to get listed, because there's going to be a lot, there's going to be newer listings over the next, you know, there's going to always be new listings. But like for stuff that I'm actually trying to get into, it's very likely that I'm not really concerning myself too much with what the chart says. It's more about value. It's more about like where am I interested, and it might not be technical related. Does that make sense? The bottom line is I would say that like it's very hard for me to want to trust a chart that's new as far as like technicals go, to make any sort of decision outside of like you, like I would argue you cannot make any sort of high time frame decision solely based off of technicals on a chart that's brand new. If you're trading Aptos, like so again, like if you're trading Aptos at the very beginning, you're on a 1 minute, you're on a 3 minute. You're not on an hourly. You're not like, I mean, again, maybe like marking off levels. So like here, like this is an example. That's actually not a terrible example. Like you have like this first hourly that gets marked off, and you have this first hourly. Like, so like this is formulating kind of like your basis for support or resistance. And then you're on low time frame trying to find those setups if you're really trying to trade that. You know what I'm saying? But like I am not getting this chart listed and then trying to make some kind of like long-term decision. It's impossible. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
So like the thing, so like I just did, how you would chart that is you would start off on the highest time frame that you can that's relevant to your chart. Obviously, like when you start here, you're not even going to have a daily that's relevant for at least a few days worth of price action. Arguably, you're not going to have like anything meaningful there. But like you see how I happen to be on an hourly, and you have your hourly level that basically frames this range, right? And then as things develop over time, you can start to add higher time frame levels of interest. So like you probably go to 4 hour next, and then start to frame like your 4 hour. So like here, right? So like that's 4 hour. And this ends up being like a relatively important support. And then you're able to like move up on time frames. But even on a chart like this, a 4 hour is a really high time frame for this chart. It's my opinion. But like when you're, this to me is just, is it tradable? I mean, yeah, like, yeah, you can. It's just, there's not really anything there that's like that interesting to me. Unless you had like, again, your kind of your initial candle, and you're getting, like, if it's really volatile and you get a really nice spike to the upside, and I'm like, I mean, just based off the fact that it's a newer chart, I'd be interested in taking a short off of that. I didn't get it, but that's basically all you do, in my opinion. For me, that's what I do. Start off in the highest time frame I can and build it from there. Then you're going to have to, so again, if you have your 4 hour levels or your hourly levels, then you're going to be on low, like, again, probably 5 minute, 3 minute time frame, and you're finding those low time frame setups, pullbacks, you know, using your tools. So just again, it's like, this is like, unless you're really, really comfortable with trading, this is a dangerous game to play early on, because a lot of time, now this one wasn't too bad. Outside of like this, for the first candle always looks weird, like this always looks pretty wild. But once things start to settle in, it's still like volatility can really come out of nowhere, you know? So it's like, unless you're very comfortable with, and arguably like things are quieter. Like if you try to do this on new listings in 2021, this is like, things got pretty crazy. I went over some of my examples last year, but it's like, it can get really tough unless you're like, know what you're looking for. Good question though. Did I answer that one okay? Hopefully. If not, you can ask me again, or like if there's anything you aren't clear on. But does anybody have any other questions?
Check out Doge. I was trading the recent high it made like last night. But I closed the position short. Yeah. I don't know why.
I would also be interested in how to play this. I mean, obviously, it's also dangerous play.
Yeah, I touched on it a few times already. Like, I mean, I kind of like, I made fun of myself earlier too, for like some of the, again, it's like, it's more like when you get, like, you have to understand that, like, you have to try to find like what your edge is on charts like this, especially something that is so news driven, right? Which the basis of this run up essentially like is attributed to Elon buying Twitter. So like the moment that became a thing, and then like the market reminded itself, oh shit, he's actually going to go through with this, you know, like it moved up substantially. Why? Because there's it's expected that Elon's going to incorporate Doge into Twitter as part of like its payments. So that's bullish. Market interprets that as being really bullish, right? So you kind of see the kind of move that we get. And then obviously, like you get when you go on like lower time frames, and then you get like the Doge, or where was it? I don't remember, because I was going to sleep. It was literally this move up. He tweets a Halloween picture of his dog just dressed up with the Twitter cape. I think it was like a Twitter cape on, and it had like a Twitter pumpkin, and it was like wink or something, which is like a hint, Doge coming to Twitter, right? What happens? Like you get this big spike up. How do you account for that? So like if you look at this from a technical standpoint, I mean, yes, I can sit here and give you reasons on why this happened. Okay. And I think anybody who's like who calls himself like a technical purist is gonna make some bullshit excuse for why this happened. Like we came down to support, blah blah. I can give you all the reasons. The reason why this happened was because he tweeted a freaking picture of his dog. Okay, it's that simple. Like, and then obviously what happens is then you get back to the Twitter. Yeah, so there's the picture, right? Rogue Rain. So again, I'll bring this over for everybody who can't see. But like this is a picture he tweets. Okay. But like, so how do you play that? Well, if you're a freaking degenerate like myself, who's been around the block and been through, I've traded a lot of Elon moves, because it's in the first time that like it's happened, right? So you like, even I remember specifically there was a period last year, he sent a tweet out about Bitcoin, sent Bitcoin up 7% immediately. I caught that. I was like, immediately. And it's very like, again, unless you have some kind of built-in system where like you're able to catch that move like extremely early, you know what I'm saying? Like you almost gotta like have some kind of way to, which I know those exist. Like you can like scan Twitter posts or something and like determine whether it's bullish or bearish and immediately market buy that. Like there's some, you know, I don't really know that's a thing. Unless you have something like that and you're like really degenerate and really wanting to take those trades, arguably, like, how do you trade that? For me, I took a long here. As soon as I saw that stupid picture, I market longed immediately. Why? because I had a pretty good feeling that we were gonna have a pump off of that, right? Now that's really stupid, and I made fun of myself for doing it earlier in chat. But the fact is, like, how do you trade that? How do you trade that? You get my point? And like,
That high that was made was at a naked daily is actually pretty nice.
yeah.
I think the short, but I don't know. I should just close it.
So for me, I'm really waiting for these levels. So this is the two levels that I've been talking about. So in case you're wondering, why the hell is he talking about 17.6 and 20 cents? It's literally these two levels above, and I wouldn't mind a push up there, because as we come into that, if we came into those levels, I would entertain the idea. Now, for me, when you have something like this reminds me of Forex, except worse, like less predictable. This reminds me, so I'll give you, this is exactly what this is. If anybody was trading Forex when Trump was around, and you have random tweets that come out of nowhere, like it's like, I've had multiple positions that I was in, some benefited and some didn't benefit and didn't go my way. I learned that, like, there's just outcomes that happen. I mean, I mean, I don't want to get too much into it. Like that happens no matter what. Like, basically, the moral of the story should happen no matter what. But like, when you have an environment like this, where you're trying to make technical, now you can obviously see I've been scalping this quite a bit. But when you're trying to make like pure technical decisions, but you have to understand that there's an external force that can change the game of your, like, it can change the dynamic of your trade entry in an instant. Are you going to be around to like manage that trade? Right? So I took this long yesterday. As soon as I saw that's very cute picture, I'm not going to lie. I took the long, but I closed it before I went to bed. Why did I do that? Because I don't know what the hell is going to happen after I go to sleep for 8 hours. Because like, there's obviously, you could have a massive retracement. You could, I mean, again, I didn't sell anywhere near up here. Like up at these highs, I got a like pretty nice move out of it. But I was like, I don't have the conviction to want to hold this position and like wait for my targets above, like wait for those levels above that I had shown, because there's a lot that can happen. And not only that, especially coming into tomorrow, which is going to be a massive news-driven day anyway, right? With FOMC, we're probably going to get a lot of volatility there. This is just an area where I'm not interested in it anymore. I'm not interested in like wanting to play the game of what's Elon say. And like, it's really sad. And it's funny, but it's kind of sad. Now, like, you see people who are long Doge, and like they've been talking about Doge nonstop, hoping that it keeps pumping, and then they're like tweeting at Elon nonstop. Oh, is Doge gonna be accepted as? I mean, I think it's kind of expected that it's going to happen at some point, but like they're trying to get him just to say it, because what would probably happen? That you'd probably get a spike up into those levels above, right? But to me, for myself, I don't have an edge trading Doge right now. The edge that I typically rely on for my setups, it's not present here, because there's too much there's too much going on outside of the charts that changes the landscape. That's my opinion. So like this trade that I took on Doge, it's not that I'm necessarily going to be done trading Dogecoin. It's just that the trades that I'll probably be more patient with my setups. And, you know, again, I'm not going to even lie. If he tweets something else, and by the way, I was sitting in front of my computer immediately. Like I caught, like I was like 20 seconds after he posted it, something like that. I seen it. And like, I always have my stuff open for the most part. Like for those exchange, I like have that prepared. I wasn't planning on it, but I just did it. And then, yeah, it ended up being a good play, but that's the nature of it, right? That could very easily have backfired. But it's a risk that you take, and defining the risk in a trade like that's kind of hard. That's like, you have to do it after the fact, right? So anyway, hopefully that answered your question. Like, it doesn't change, like, And so like the thing about this too though is that the technical levels don't really change for me in terms of kind of like what I'm looking for, especially like my higher time frame levels. But like when you're trading this intraday and again a tweet comes out and you're short and you don't have a stop in, like I just be careful, you know. That's all I'd say. I'm not like the point is I'm not like I'm not like begging to short this right now. I'm just not. I'd rather like even if it drops from here, I'm okay. Like it's too difficult for me to figure that out. The other option is you take a short, which I said earlier, which is its own. I mean, if you do this, you know, good luck to you. But I mean, if you short this with no leverage and you can't be liquidated, and you're doing it from like a value perspective in the sense that like you're sure you have a pretty good chance that you're going to see Doge at substantially lower than it currently sits, and you're going to get a chance to exit. Like I can see that, but I don't want to do that. But like you have no stop. There's no like you're which that setup works sometimes. I've done it on certain alts. Like a good example, one that I missed that I should have, I just didn't have the balls to do it, was Luna Classic. That was a good example. Looked at that, I was like, man, this thing's coming down. I didn't take it. I think I had to take it on like KuCoin or something. That's why I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, I mean, I could have done it, but I think at the time it was like I couldn't. Or something. There was like another reason why I wasn't even worth the bother. But it was just like that's a very big risk when you have stuff that's running rampant right on the chart, and like you're gonna fade that. But if you have a big enough stop and enough conviction, then sure. This isn't one of those cases. Higher up, I'd consider it, but not from here. Hopefully that answers your question. Did that answer your question?
Well, also the yearly open is near that
Yeah.
that weekly. I was looking for that too for like a.
I think like the thing I like I really don't want to. I really Doge became a lot harder. I think for me personally, it came a little. It's a little bit more difficult, just because you have like that added element of unpredictability. And it's not that it always been there, because Elon's been tweeting about this since last year. Like he's been, you know, I mean, not he's been very active tweeting about it, but now that he owns Twitter, and you're probably going to see it more often. If anything, like I think it probably does get more bullish. I don't know if I'm going to get the fill I was looking for though. Like we talked about, I don't know. That might be gone. So it's kind of one of those things that, like for me, from where it currently sits, is it worth a punt here? And like as far as like a real hold, I had very favorable entries. Unfortunately, like I didn't hold my entries, but I was scalping in and out of this, so I caught some of it. I didn't catch as much as I would have liked to, because honestly, I think that I kind of mid-curve this trade a little bit too much, if I'm being honest. It's kind of like you just gotta let things play out. I don't always have that kind of conviction with things, and when I don't, I've learned for myself it's better, even if I'm wrong, which I'm wrong a lot. But like even if I'm wrong on that, it's better for me just to sit out, and you know, it's like if it happens, it happens, and that's kind of it. But I caught some of it, not all of it. Not massively disappointed with it at all. I just could have literally held my entry and been good though. But you know, again, didn't have like the full on conviction to like see a move up here this soon, to be honest. So yeah, I had to end up playing it a little bit more level to level than I'd really like to. But you know, this is a tough one though. I'm not gonna lie, for me this is tough. This is a tough one to trade. I think it's easier to have a little bit more upside bias. It's moving a little bit now. Not that that's, I don't know, who the hell knows what's gonna happen, but it's easier for me to have a little bit more bullish buys just because of that. You have like the Elon tailwind, right? That's that's a pretty big one. It's just at this stage and kind of like being relatively close to some of these levels, it's like I'd rather. It's just like not enough left for me to like get super excited to want to like take that risk, because I think the risk is pretty big, especially coming into tomorrow. I think like you don't know. And every other FOMC like that we've had recently has been very volatile. I don't expect anything different tomorrow. And what's very likely to happen, which is pretty much a theme, is that both sides are going to get it. So I would say with high probability that both longs and shorts that are positioning themselves now they're both probably going to get it. It's just a matter of when. So it's I like what I've done well with. What I've done really well with for these is, again, I haven't been positioned going into them. Like I'm not like establishing a new position, just praying till the bull gods that they're gonna stay the word pivot, and we're like, I don't want to be like everybody, a lot of other people, but I'd rather play the carnage on the other side and play and the mean reversion thought process, like the mean reversion type trades, those have done very well. So for myself, so like when you have big moves either direction, and again, you can kind of equate it to like stretching a rubber band out, right? The further you stretch it away, eventually it's going to revert to mean type of thing. Like it gets harder and harder to keep pushing it one direction. I'd be a little bit careful because we obviously are pretty close to 21K. And you start to see a push up. Like I could easily see a push up to 21.3, 21.7 even. Like I would rather take my shot there and not like try to play the whatever happens, the initial move, because a lot of times initial move it's not always the move, like not always the right move. So hopefully that makes sense, but I'm definitely not, I don't have any trades or anything planned. It's more just like I've been the past several, like the past, well, there's several, it's not that often, but the past few, I've been a reactive trader and it's suited me well. So I don't see any reason to change my style tomorrow. For me, I think it's 2:00 is the FOMC meeting. It's 11 Eastern. No, I'm sorry. It's 5. Is it 5 Eastern? I think it's 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, whatever that is for you. I think is that New York close? No, I'm sorry. Oh, no, I'm like getting confused. It's 11 a.m. my time. That's it. I think. Pretty sure. 2 p.m. Sorry, it's 2 p.m. my time. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, who's this?
That move up you were talking about on Doge.
What's that?
I just shorted that move up on Doge. Just pray from here.
You shorted right here?
Yeah, go on the 1 minute time frame.
Oh, here?
Yeah, just swing filled the range high.
All right, good luck to you, sir. Yeah, I'm not again, you can kind of see like my hesitancy for with wanting to play anymore on Doge. It's been fun, but it's like I definitely could have made it a bit easier on myself, but at this point it's not something that I'm really too keen on wanting to play.
I've been trading pretty nice. I've just been scalping it.
Yeah, low time. I think again, scalping it's there. It's giving setups, but I don't know. Just like less, kind of like doged out at these levels. I'd rather again let's Elon tweet something else. Then maybe I'll jump in for fun. Again, if you know what I'm referring to, read the chat. I like literally outlined it. Do I think it's the smartest way? I think it's not very smart, but I've been doing this quite a while, and I've it's just kind of one of those things like you if you think that you can get a few percent, take it, right? So it's not always gonna work that way, but I it's not like I'm what mistake I think what mistake people make is when you trade off of stuff that's like not technical, it's expecting too much. And I think like, oh my god, there it is. That's the bat signal, right? Like, oh, we're going to a dollar. And then I think that way of thinking probably not very good. But if you're a bit conservative in what you're looking for, I think you can get it. So if you're quick enough.
Just using price action. Volume.
Yeah, no, again, again, nothing really change. Like technicals don't really change. It's like it is what it is. If the setup's there, setup's there. But for me, I'm not. I will probably not take another Doge trade until tomorrow. So for like the next 24 hours, I'm probably not going to take another trade. I'm probably not going to take any trades, to be honest with you. Like unless I see something, I shouldn't say that I won't take any trades, but it's not likely that I'm going to take anything unless it's really unless I'm gifted like a really good setup that I think I have to take. Just because it's like it's I think that I think the trades are gonna come tomorrow. Around when Sir Powell graces us. I think that's when we're gonna get some kind of opportunity. So I will be in chat tomorrow. I'm sure. I don't think I have anything going on. I know I'm gonna be playing around with the rest of the degenerates, but so if anyway, I mean we'll be in chat. We usually are. I think Rogue and I are usually in there. So anyway, and that's probably it for the stream. Let me cut it.